Hi, I'm Chelly Wood and this is my tiny sewing room where I make doll clothes sewing videos. Today I'm going to show you how to make this lovely swirly Halloween skirt, which is designed to fit 11.5-inch fashion dolls like Barbie and similar sized dolls. The design of this skirt makes it possible for the skirt to have a swirl effect without the use of petticoats. Before we begin, please go to my website, chellywood.com, to download and print this free PDF sewing pattern. For this skirt, which uses pre-gathered lace trim, you will not need the ruffle patterns that come with the pattern because this project uses pre-gathered lace trim. Another tutorial video, I haven't released it yet, but it will show the ruffle version, so watch for that. Use your skirt top section pattern to cut these 3 pieces of fabric, and note, if you're using a fabric that has a right and wrong side, make sure you cut your pieces out so that the swirl always is going in the same direction. Keep some pre-gathered lace trim nearby for later. Lay one skirt top section on top of another, keeping right sides together. Sew from the top of the garment piece to just below the notch. Now I'm using a backstitch to sew my skirt, but of course you could use a sewing machine. Honestly though, I chose to sew this by hand because I thought it might be trickier on the sewing machine, because what you're going to do is kind of work with the curve of the skirt. Now when we stitch from the notch area to the tip of the skirt, we'll bend the fabric to follow that curve, like you see me doing here. And that's why I decided it would be wise to not use a sewing machine, because it's tricky to bend that fabric to like align with the other piece. If you're using a sewing machine, you might end up with a wrinkle there, more of a pleat, and you don't want that. Now as we get closer and closer to that pointy tip of the fabric, I create a swirl effect with the fabric itself. Here's what I mean. Okay, so you can see it starting to bend, okay, as I try to align one of the little comma shapes with the other. The closer we get to the bottom pointy tip, the more fabric swirls on its own, and that's the idea behind this, is to create that swirl for your Barbie. So you don't have to use a petticoat, it just naturally swirls. And it really makes a neat look at the end. You also want to use cotton fabric, not something that drapes more like a jersey. At the end of the pointy tip, tie your knot with your needle and thread, and that's what you'll see me do here. Okay, so this stitch is complete now, and it's going to be a weird shape. It doesn't lay flat when you get it done. It's going to be kind of wonky. See that? Here's what your skirt should look like now. So when you open it up, it looks like that. Since this is a curved seam, you do need to clip your seam. Now I'll be using Fisker Stitcher's mini scissors, and if you need a pair, there is a link to these in the description area below. Now, of course, this shows me clipping in fast motion, but I take my time. I do not want to accidentally cut my seam. Next, we'll add the third skirt top section, exactly like we did before. Start with the notches, keep right sides together, stitch from the top of the skirt to the end of the pointy tip. Once it's attached, it will look like this. Clip your seams. Once clipped, press all seams to the left. Now that we've sewn all three pieces together, we'll create a casing. It will help to use your pattern, which is marked with fold lines. Fold the top of the skirt once, and then a second time using a deeper fold. And here I am doing that, so I kind of align it with the fold line right there at the top, and then I do that second fold line for the casing. Whip stitch along the very bottom of the casing. If you need help with a whip stitch, I do have a tutorial for that. Just look in the description area below this video on YouTube. But I think you could also use your sewing machine for this. It can help to pin your casing in place. Just remove the straight pins as you sew along. When you've finished your casing, measure your doll's waist for elastic, cutting it so there's only a slight overlap. 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch wide elastic is going to be best for this project. That's 3 to 6 millimeters wide in terms of metric. Attach a tiny safety pin to an end of your elastic. Send the safety pin through the casing, holding the elastic in place with straight pins on each side of the casing. Okay, so I'm sending my safety pin through the casing, and when I get to the tip of the elastic, then I make sure a straight pin goes all the way through the elastic before I continue pulling to the other end, and then put another straight pin through the elastic, and now you can remove your safety pin. Now your skirt will look like this. Bring the two straight pins together with right sides of fabric together by folding the skirt. Okay, so my straight pins are going to come together with right sides together, and you do not want to remove those straight pins until you've sewn all the way through the elastic at the top, at which point you can remove those straight pins. Sew from the casing down the side of the skirt, making sure your stitches pass all the way through the elastic before moving down the skirt to the pointy tip like we did twice before. Here's a closer look at those stitches. And again, this is a back stitch. If you need help with the back stitch, I have a tutorial in the description area below. If you look inside the skirt, it's going to look like this. Fold the rough edges of the skirt toward you and straight stitch along this single fold hem area. Okay, so here's what my skirt looks like, and I keep it wrong side out. And then I'm going to fold this toward me and just do a single straight stitch. And again, I have a tutorial on the straight stitch. you can use a sewing machine. This one, the tricky part here is with the sewing machine, it's very tiny. I did use my sewing machine for this though. But I have included a link to my hand stitching straight stitch sewing tutorial in the description area below. Leave your lace trim attached to the spool as you sew it to the hem you just finished. Note, leave 1 centimeter of unstitched lace, again at the very start where you begin stitching your lace to the skirt. I'm using a running stitch for this, also known as a straight stitch. Continue stitching the lace to the skirt's hem until you come back to the starting point. When your stitching finds you back at the start, cut the lace trim from the spool, leaving 1 centimeter of extra lace to work with. Okay, so I'm finishing my straight stitches, tying my knot. If you need help making a knot with needle and thread, I have a tutorial for that too. I have cut my lace free from the spool now. Okay. That 1 centimeter of extra lace is very important to have. What you're going to do is you're going to bring together these 2 edges of lace. And that's going to be a seam right there. Now I switched to a white or a cream colored thread, okay, to join the 2 ends of my lace right there. So here I have my needle and thread, and I just bring these extra lace bits together. And using a similar color of thread, stitch them together top to bottom. Now if you need to, you can trim away any extra lace that you may have there. It's nice to have that extra centimeter to work with though, but you can trim any lace that's excess as you see fit. Invert your skirt. So you want to turn it so it's right side out. And look how nicely it puffs. Isn't that nice? Now you're ready to try it on a doll. For more free printable PDF sewing patterns for dolls of many shapes and all different sizes, including the shirt pattern that goes with my skirt, please remember to visit my website, chellywood.com. Barbie and her friends are headed to a Halloween dance party. Dance, Barbie, dance. If you enjoyed my stop motion video of Barbie dolls dancing, you may be excited to learn that each of these outfits is being sold in a grouping on my Etsy store. So if you know a little girl who would love some Halloween outfits to play Barbie Dance Party, there are 5 skirts and 5 tops plus the tights, which really only fit 10-inch dolls like Petite Barbie and Skipper. But these are all for sale in my Etsy store, and there's a link to my Etsy store in the description area below.